right, we're going to start with the Michigan defense. Defensive coordinator Don Brown, linebacker Khalid Hudson. Coach, we'll begin with an opening statement for you, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, we're having a great time in Orlando in terms of our preparation for the game, and obviously our kids being part of this great community. With that being said, we're excited about our opponent, obviously, excited to be here, and looking forward to the challenge.
All right, if you could raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you for questions. Start front row, second row left, right.
Chris Ballas with the Wolverine. Coach, can you just talk about their receivers a little bit and the challenge of us stopping those guys?
Well, they're pretty good now. They've got a nice group. It sounds like Devontae Smith is back at practice, so that just enhances their ability to get down the field. Jerry Jeudy, obviously, Bolitnikoff winner a year ago. Ruggs, Waddle, and Michi with some of the injuries that they've dealt with, has made a name for himself as a young guy as well. So we understand the challenge that's in front of us. We're confident in our ability. We'll have to, you're not going to beat them one way. You're going to have to play a number of different coverages. And, we're confident in our ability to do that.
A couple rows back, still on the right.
Aaron Suttles, The Athletic. When you look at Mac Jones, their quarterback, how does he change their offense? How do they look different other than Tua?
To be quite honest, I don't think they've changed all that much. I think they've stayed systematically right on track to where they want to be. He does a great job of getting the ball out quick, which is obviously a trait for their offensive football team, as they want to get it out quick. So, I don't know if he's changed it all that much, but he's certainly been efficient and has certainly kept them playing at an elite level for sure.
Stay on the right, a couple more rows back.
Coach, Luis Torres with the Orlando Sentinel. Going back to their wide receivers, in terms of the amount of talent they have over the years, where do you think they kind of rank over the wide receivers you've kind of faced since you've been coaching college football?
Boy, I would have to say top 3 to 5. One year at BC, we had Sammy Watkins and company when we faced Clemson, and I would think this group might have some similar traits, but the bottom line is when you have 4 of them, that makes it a significant challenge because you got to be strong at all your defensive back positions, and your linebackers got to be in sync in the coverages that we'll utilize. So this is probably the deepest group across the board, but seen individual talent like these guys in the past.
We have any more questions for the Michigan defense? Over on the left.
AP Stedham, WHEP, AM and FM, Foley, Alabama. Coach, what have you seen from Najee Harris through the season, how he's developed?
Well, he's probably the best jump cut guy I've seen. In meeting him when he was a senior in high school, to see his development physically, he's certainly taken his physicality to a different level. But the thing that I'm most impressed with is his ability to change direction and jump cut and be in the strong side A gap, end up in the backside B gap, or vice versa. So a good back, a guy that we're going to have to tackle for sure. You're not going to be able to one-arm whip him down on the ground. It's not one of those type of guys. He's kind of a throwback because of his size and strength.
Back over on the right, 3 rows back.
Ashley Bastock, the Toledo Blade. Don, just in the week since the Ohio State loss, what has this group's response been, and what have you seen from them in bowl camp?
we've moved on from that. I mean, obviously, you can't let, you know, a significant loss like that linger. If you let it linger, then it's, you know, one loss leads to two losses. And I think our guys have done a good job of just putting that behind us and focusing on what's in front of us. We've got a great challenge coming up here next Wednesday. And, you know, that's why our 100% focus.
Couple more rows back on the right.
Hudson, what would you think about Najee when you see him on tape?
I think he's a very good player. Just like Coach Brown, I knew him from recruiting his senior year when he came to Michigan for his official visit. But I really think he's a good player. I really think he has speed, he has power, and he has a really good jump cut. He knows his offense well, and he can see the hole, you know, very quickly. So I think he's a very good back, and you know, it's going to take our whole team, our whole defense to be able to slow him down and stop him.
Over on the left.
Aria Gerson, the Michigan Daily. So after, you know, what happened against Ohio State, how are you preparing to face a team with a similar level of, you know, offensive talent?
Well, I mean, obviously, after every game, you always go ahead and evaluate what went right, what went wrong. You know, is it human error? Is it schematics error? So you go through those processes, and you set your game plan for for a new opponent, and you try to, you know, fortify your weaknesses and play to your strengths. So, you know, we got to get back. You know, we went 8 weeks in a row with giving up about 11 points a game. We got to get back to that style of play, and we still have to maintain our own identity, but at the same time be ready to adjust to the strengths of our new opponent, which is Alabama.
Last question, your second row right.
Coach, who are some of the young guys in bowl practices that you have seen make a leap?
I'm going to let Cleek answer that one. Go ahead, bro. I'll give you that one.
Guys who's taking the leap is DJ Turner. He's doing really well. Zach Charbonnet is doing really well, as he's been doing throughout the whole season. Mike Sangstrel is doing really well. Mozzie Smith is really stepping up and handling his business. And, you know, guys like Anthony Solomon, just all the freshmen really, to me, they're really starting to hone in the defense and really starting to know what they're doing. And it's starting to show because it's allowing them to be able to move faster, be able to think faster, and just be able to be in practice, just doing what they do, and that's making plays.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get going with the Michigan offense now. Offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis, quarterback Shea Patterson, tackle Ben Bredesen. Once you guys get settled, Coach, we'll begin with an opening statement for you and then open it up for questions.
Obviously, heading into the Citrus Bowl, we're really excited for the opportunity that we have to play University of Alabama. We understand the challenge that we have in front of us, and our guys have had a great week of preparation and preparing for this opportunity.
All right. Same thing, raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you. We'll start over on the right, a few rows back.
Josh, do you sense this Alabama defense is vulnerable?
This defense is very talented. Coach Saban and Coach Golden have done a really good job putting together this defense, facing some of the challenges that they've had this year as far as injuries. But they played pretty good, throughout the year. You look at them, one of the things that stands out is, they're second in the country in turnover margin. So obviously creating turnovers, but also offensively for them doing a really good job of maintaining the football. So they present a number of different challenges that we've been preparing for, and we're looking forward to the battle.
Couple rows up, still on the right.
Yeah, Josh, what has this year been like for you? I mean, just, going from Alabama to Michigan, being a first-time offensive coordinator. Can you just describe what the year's been like?
This year's been awesome. I get a chance to work with, some fabulous young men, too, that are here today to represent us. And, the support that I've gotten from our players, the support I've gotten from our coaches, it's been amazing. So it's really living out my dream. I'm honored to be here at the University of Michigan to be able to lead these young men and continue moving the needle forward as we continue moving on.
3 rows back, staying on the right.
For Shay, you played at Alabama one time. What do you remember about that experience?
It didn't exactly go my way. I just remember going in and playing in that game as a freshman. I was a completely different player back then, and I was just happy to get the experience.
Couple rows up, staying on the right.
Josh, what do you think down the stretch of this regular season clicked for this offense?
When you look at the first 6 games, there's a lot of positives. There's some negatives in there. But when you look at the first 6 games, there was 13 turnovers, I want to say to believe. And so, that wouldn't put you in the top of the country at any category from that standpoint. And then you look at, our last 6, I want to say we were in the top 5 or 10 in the country as far as in turnovers at that standpoint. Not that you're ranking at that point, but we only had 3 turnovers from the last 6 games on. So when you're extending drives, you're not turning the football over. You're able to put points on the board and continue those drives. And so, and I think it's a credit to our players. They continue to put their head down, focus on their fundamentals, techniques, and details. And, they did an unbelievable job. Ultimately it comes down to, our guys, and you look at some of the big wins that we've had, and it's a tribute to those guys. They took those games over and really took ownership of it.
Over on the left, 3 rows back.
Alex Mike from Montgomery Advertiser. Josh, how much has your familiarity with the Alabama offense and helped your defense? How much have you been kind of poking your head into that room a little bit and giving them some insight?
Yeah, I think I think it always helps. Obviously, going against us, but they're different. We're different. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities in what we do offensively. I think I think they've done a really good job adapting and adjusting the offense from previously being there. And they've got good players. They've got good coaches. Steve Sarkisian has done a really good job for them offensively. And so Coach Brown does an amazing job, in battling us. And that's one thing that's led us to get better is going against our defense each and every day. I think that's one of the things that really attributes to our success is we go against one of the best defenses in the country. And so Coach Brown's done a phenomenal job with our defensive unit, preparing them, but also preparing us for the challenges that we'll face.
Staying on the left against the wall.
AP Stedham, WHEP, AM and FM, Foley, Alabama. This is for Ben and Shay. Ben, who's the best defensive lineman from a rush standpoint? And then Shay, what's different about Alabama's pressure?
I wouldn't put a name on that. I mean, they've got an outstanding defensive front. It's going to be one of the best that we've seen all year. Thankfully, just the way that the Big Ten worked out, we had some outstanding defensive ends, interior D linemen all year to help us get ready for this game. We've had our fair share of battles with different teams we played throughout the season. So we're really looking forward to the challenge the Alabama defensive front brings. I think we match up really well, and it's gonna be a good battle.
Over on the right.
Shay, you said you're a different player than you were the first time you played Alabama. 4 coordinators later, how has your game evolved? And Josh, if you could speak to how Shay's evolved this season.
Yeah, completely different. I was watching film in my freshman and sophomore year, and it's completely different. And
I'll go to battle with this guy any day of the week. This is Sugar Shea Patterson right here, and just to see, really to see his confidence, throughout the year continue to rise each and every week. His preparation, his performance. Obviously, statistically, he did some pretty amazing things throughout the year as far as number of 300-yard passing games. But I think there was some adversity that we faced offensively. And I think Shea is one of the leaders and Ben is one of the leaders that really took ownership of it. And no one put their head down. They continued to fight and continue to push through. And that's a testament to their character. There was a point in the year when a lot of people were saying give up and quit and, hey, this isn't working, this isn't this. But none of our kids believed that because they truly knew who we were. They knew who we were in practice, who we were in games. And it was a testament to their character to fight through everything. So I couldn't be more proud of Shea and Ben, both of these guys. But specifically when you say of Shea, just this guy's a player, man. He's been playing at an extreme high level for us, and he's been the leader of our offense, leader of our team. And like I said, I'll go to battle with him any day out of the week versus any team in the country.
Moving a little bit further in on that same row.
James Ogletree, the Crimson White. Josh, what have you learned in your first year as a play caller, whether that's X's and O's or communication and getting through to your guys?
I would say, when you first take over a job, the only thing that ever comes to mind is all the positive things. You obviously think about, all the things positive, all the scoring, the touchdowns, and you never really set the standard as far as thinking about the negative things as far as the adversity you may face. We can laugh about it now. Our first play of the season ended with a fumble. So, when you're sitting there on your first play call, the first thing that happens, and the next thing you know, the ball's on the ground. You got to learn how to deal with adversity. And so I think that was the unique thing. But I think really the thing that really inspired me and inspired our offense is I knew that I could look in the eyes of our young men each and every week, and they never lost faith. They never lost confidence. And when your players play for you and they play for each other, good things ultimately end up happening. And that's my trust in them, my belief in them. But most importantly, I think their trust in their coaches, their trust in their teammates, their trust in Coach Harbaugh. We've got a great culture within our team, within our offense, and we're really proud of everything that we've accomplished. We're proud of each other, but we're not done. We've got a great opportunity ahead of us to really end the season the way we want to.
We're going back left.
Joseph Salvador, Florida Citrus Sports. Shea, what was the turning point here for you this season where the offense started to click for you and the team?
Starting point, anytime, new offense and, Coach Gaddis had to come in and, adjust to new players and, we had to learn new schemes and, there's going to be some growing pains but I know in the end, right now it's going really well.
We're going to go over on the right, 3 rows.
Tony Sukalis, BamaInsider.com. Coach, you worked with Devontae Smith last year. He had somewhat of a breakout year this year. Is that something you saw coming from him?
Absolutely. Devontae Smith's a great player. He's a great young man. He's a student of the game. Constantly we spend time in the office, and I told people after the season last year, had he not got hurt and faced some of the injuries that he faced towards the end of the year, that a lot of people would have been talking about him as much as some of the other guys in the room. That's a very talented room of receivers. They're great young men, and just a lot of credit to those guys. I got so much respect for those guys. Devontae, Jerry, Henry, and I leave out guy late Jalen Waddle. Sorry, I'm just forget the names real quick, thinking of my own guys. But they're all talented, very talented young men, but even better people. And so I think it's a testament to them and their character, and obviously to their development. I think they've really kind of established themselves, and just got a tremendous amount of respect for those guys. Yeah.
Far right, second row.
Josh, what's the greatest thing that you learned being an offensive coordinator versus a position coach? Is there something when you take that next step that you really kind of start to understand even more so regarding the offense?
I'll tell you the thing that you really learn the most is, every play call, every play lives with you past that play. As a position coach, you can kind of go to bed at night and wake up the next morning after a game ready to move on. As a coordinator, you don't sleep at night. Whether it's good or bad, you're always going back through processing every game, every call, and trying to evaluate how you can, put your kids in a better position, how you can put your team in a better position. So, that's a little bit from my mindset. I'm just, it kind of drives me crazy from that standpoint, in a good way, not in a negative way, but just the brain just never stops thinking, how you can help these young men and help put them in position to be successful.
Just time for a couple more. Same row on the right.
Josh, with early signees like Orion Zukam Live, with early signees like Blake Corum, getting a few practices in with you guys last week, how beneficial is that for them, and what was your impressions of him during those practices?
Yeah, I think it was very beneficial from a team chemistry standpoint, just mixing those guys in, kind of getting them around some of their teammates and really kind of showing those guys how we practice and the culture that we have in practice. There wasn't a ton of work that they could do, obviously, as we were focused on our opponent coming up and moving along in our game preparations, but very, very pleased. Offensively, we had Zach Zenner and then we had Blake Corum there early, and really pleased with both of those young men and what they displayed. Blake's got a unique ability be explosive with the ball in his hands, and we're excited about him. But we're going to welcome those guys back in January, and they're going to have to really get back to work. It's going to be a different setting. It's going to be a different team. It's going to be new opportunities and new challenges, and so we look forward to welcoming those guys on campus. But first and foremost, we gotta take care of the job that we've got at hand with this game.
Final question, right center, Michael.
For everyone up there, I know Nico Collins is a Birmingham guy. Has he talked at all about this game, meaning anything more to him, just being from Alabama?
You don't need to talk about motivation for this game. I think all of our guys are excited. Any game. This is the most important game for us because it's our last game. It's our last game as a team for this 2019 year. This is our last game for our seniors. These young men that sit up here, that we want to make sure that we leave these guys out the right way. And so obviously there's going to be a chip on some guys' shoulders. Nico obviously as well, being from Birmingham and obviously his familiarity with the program. But Nico stayed steady in his preparation. We haven't, the thing we don't want to do is make it different than any other approach that we've had all year long. And so, we got to stay within the framework of how we prepare each and every game and each and every week. Continue to focus on the things we need to focus on and make sure that, we're as prepared as we can be for when we take the field.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.
On their way up from the parking lot. Yep, they're on their way up from the parking lot. All right. We'll get started with the Alabama offense. We have coordinator Steve Sarkisian, wide receiver Devontae Smith. Once you guys get settled, Coach, we'll have an opening statement for you, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Well, happy holidays, everyone. It's a really exciting time to be in Orlando here. I think really appreciate the Citrus Bowl and all the activities and events they've put on for our players. I think they've had a nice week here of a little bit of time and reward for the season. I think our preparation has gone well, leading up to a very tough challenge. Michigan's a very good defense. I think 7th-ranked defense in the country. So we know we've got a tall task ahead of us. I think our players have worked extremely hard. We got to kind of fine-tune the final pieces to this thing over the next couple days and get ready to play a very good football team here on January 1st.
All right, we'll open it up for questions. We'll start over here on the left, second row.
For Sark and for Devontae, what impresses each of you, starting with Devontae, about the Michigan secondary?
Just how crafty they are. They can switch it up. They can be physical. They can be patient, and just the things that they do, they switch it up, keep you guessing, and have you just wondering like, okay, what is he going to do this time?
I think from a scheme standpoint, I think Coach Brown does an excellent job of, they've got a lot of man-to-man principles they play, and as Devontae said, they're crafty at corner. I think 24 and 1 are both crafty in their man-to-man skills, but they do a really good job in their scheme of mixing it up, mixing up different zone coverages that match up into man coverages. So I think the challenge for the wideouts is their releases and how they're running specific routes, and then also for the quarterback because of the variations of coverages. A quarterback's got to be on point of where his progression and where his reads need to go.
Third row right on the aisle.
Tony Segalis, BamaInsider.com. To Devontae, we just talked with Coach Gaddis. How influential is he in your development as a receiver?
Well, I mean, every receiver coach that came in has taught all of us something different. So it's just depending on the type of coach they are. He's more the technical one, so he kind of taught us more the technical things of being a receiver.
We're going to go over on the left, third row.
Sark, where have you seen Mac improve the most throughout the season? And since he took over as a starter, how has he made this team his own?
Well, I think, anytime you're a backup quarterback, we do a really good job, in my opinion. Coach Saban does a great job in practice of getting our ones and twos a lot of reps and quality reps. But there is something to be said about when you're the one and you're taking those reps in practice and then applying it to the game. A lot of times when you're the backup, you work all week and you may not get in that ball game. And so I think Mac's done an excellent job from when he got thrown in against Tennessee. That's a different formula. And then all of a sudden you get the week to prepare. You become the starter against Arkansas, and you get those reps, you get those looks, and then you go out and perform. I think it naturally just builds confidence. And with his confidence, as that has built, in my opinion, throughout the year with Mac, I think the confidence in his teammates for him has grown. I think the receivers, the offensive line, all of a sudden those guys see number 10 go in there, make throws against Auburn where guys are breathing down his face at critical moments on third down, getting conversions. So I think that's where he's grown. I think he's translated the practice to the game, built his own confidence, and then in turn that's built the confidence in his teammates and him as well.
We're going to go in the far right in the center.
Steve, there was an opportunity or a chance that you could have been hit hard with guys not playing in this game. One, what was your reaction when you found out you're going to have pretty much a full arsenal? And two, what do you think it says about the mindset of this team? Is it those guys that made those decisions as they enter this game?
Well, obviously, having been here for a year now, you start to learn not just the player and the jersey number. You start to learn the character of the players we have, especially on offense, the guys I deal with the most. And these are highly competitive guys now, and these guys strive for excellence. They work extremely hard every day. They come to meetings ready to attention to detail. But at the end of the day, it's the competitive spirit I think all these guys have. And, for us to have all these guys playing in the game offensively are needed. We're going against a very good defense. But also I just think it speaks volumes to the type of character kids we have. I'm proud of the work that they've done all year and excited to have these guys go out and play and perform and compete on the first.
Back in the second row left.
Devontae, Kerry Clark, BamaCentral.com. Tell me a little bit about, since you came in with the same class as him, what it's been like for you the last 3 years going against Xavier in practice?
Just knowing that you have the other side being just as competitive as you, he's a perfectionist. So like he always want things to be perfect. And I know that if I'm going out to practice, I know he's going to match my intensity every day. So just going out there, having that, it just makes both of us better.
Third row, far right.
Steve, I imagine your paths crossed with Jim Harbaugh when you were Washington. Could you describe your relationship and your interactions with him and your impressions?
Well, I think Jim's an excellent football coach. I mean, he's done it on every level, from University of San Diego to Stanford to the 49ers, now with Michigan. I mean, he's a fantastic coach, very intense guy. The one thing, his teams always play hard. They're physical, they're tough, and well coached, good schemes. And, I saw it as a head coach from both sides of the ball. Obviously, I'm seeing it now from a defensive perspective, but I imagine they play well and coached well on offense in a physical outfit. So really good coach, really good competitor. Excited for the challenge to go against him again.
Stand on the right in the middle. Michael.
Steve, now your second time back at Alabama. What will be your reflections when you think back on the 2019 season as offensive coordinator?
Was a tremendous experience. Like I said, I'm fortunate. I get to go to work every day with really good people, from the top down, from Coach Saban to our offensive staff to our players. I mean, these guys are fun to coach. They want to be great. We try to push them every day, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. We put things on them at a very high level, and they've responded. And so I'm just appreciative of the opportunity that Coach Saban's given me to come back. And it's been a joy to coach these guys. I mean, they are highly, highly competitive young men. There's always going to be that kind of sour taste in your mouth in some capacity, because we felt like we missed a couple opportunities in games that we really feel like we should have and could have won. Unfortunately, we didn't get that done. So the reality of it is we get one more opportunity to go show what we're about offensively, and I think our guys are going to be ready to play.
Stand on the right, 2 rows up.
Devontae, what have you seen out of Josh Jobe this year? He's an emotional player, obviously. How have you seen him kind of balance the passion that he plays with, but also being disciplined?
With Josh, I feel that it's just the will to want to play this game and just the passion he has for it. So with Josh, he go out there, he practices hard every day, and that's just him wanting to do it. So he may get frustrated at times when things don't go his way, but it's not because he's a bad person. It's just because he loves playing football.
Over on your far right, second row.
Steve, Jim has had to make an adjustment from pro style more to a spread. Can you talk about the challenges that go into that from your personal experience? And then also, how much is that a necessity now, because players, only stay maybe 3 years and go off to the league if they're really good?
Well, I've lived that life, all the way back to my days as an assistant at SC. We were a total pro-style offense, and kind of made the transition in my last couple years at Washington. Was in the kind of the spread, opened up shotgun world there, SC. Obviously going to Atlanta the last couple years, it was back to the pro style, but we started to incorporate even more of the spread kind of principles there in the National Football League. And now to be back, I think when you watch us play, and I'm sure when you watch Michigan, the little bit I've seen of them it is spread principles, it is shotgun, but if you dig down deep into it, there's a lot of pro-style offense still involved in what we do and involved in what they do. And I think that's the fine line, that's the balance, because you want to be successful. Our job is to put our players in the best position to be successful on game day. But ultimately, their development as a player is critical too. And your intent and your attitude of your football team, I think one of the challenges is if you keep throwing it, you start to lose some of that foundation as a physical football team, the ability to run the football, the ability to play action pass, to throw the ball down the field. So there is a fine line, and week to week that varies, obviously based on your opponent. I'm definitely a firm believer in the more you do really well, the harder you are to defend. And so, hopefully when you watch us, you can see a real spread type offense, but yet you can see a football team that can still line up and run downhill at you, and then everything in between. And I'm sure they're in that process. I know Coach Gaddis is an excellent coach, and he's got a lot of the background from here as well. So I think that makes it tough to defend when you can do it really well. And it's been a great process for me. I've been fortunate throughout my career to be around really good coaches and really good players to evolve kind of to where we are today.
We're going to go on the left, on the aisle.
Ainsley Lee with Florida Citrus Sports. Coach Brown called you guys like the top 3 to 5 like receiving group that he thinks he's ever coached against. What do you think set you guys apart both on and off of the field?
Why don't you take it? I'll follow up.
Just how the passion that we have for it, and just the will to want to go out there and dominate. Just when we're out there, we're going to try and just play not only for us but for everybody. And so, and just like we always try to be, we're one of the smaller receiver groups, and we always try to be physical and try to play bigger than what we are. So I just feel like just the will to want to do it.
You know, I'll follow up with that. I think these guys have an extremely high football IQ. Not only are they physically gifted, not only are they really great competitors, they're tough. Their football IQ is very high. And as a coach, that makes it enjoyable to coach them because you can put different things on them. You can move them around. You can coach conceptually rather than just one person, this is what you do on this play. And these guys eat it up. And it starts with guys like Smitty and Ruggs and Jerry, but it works its way down through the entire group with Waddle, Shavers, Slade Bolden, Mechie, Ziggy. All these guys have started to embrace this. It's bigger than just me releasing at the line of scrimmage. It's big picture, it's scheme, and that makes it fun for us to coach.
Final question, third row on the left.
Steve, you've known Tua a long time, first to offer him and all that. What was your reaction, obviously, seeing him suffer that injury, and how have you seen him rebound so far last several weeks?
I think I could speak probably for all of us. I mean, we were all hurt for him. Tua. For those of you that don't know him, and some of you in the room do know him, I mean, he's the guy, when he walks in the room, he lights it up. And it doesn't matter if it's the training room, the locker room, the practice field, the equipment room, the coach's office. That guy is a true leader. Everybody knows the work ethic and the desire and the competitiveness he has. So I think we were all very hurt. And I think the odd part is, and Coach Saban had mentioned this even right after he got hurt, when I reached out to him after the game, I felt like he was picking me up. And that's just him. He's so positive. He's so upbeat. And that's how he's been throughout his rehab now. He's in really good spirits. I don't think there's a guy who supports Mac more than Tua. But that's who the guy is. And, wherever his future holds for him, this guy's going to be successful in life. And I think as coaches, that's all you can ask for.
Coach him another year.
I'd like to coach him forever, but that's the nature of our business, You recruit players come in, you try to develop them as best you can, have a lot of team success and ultimately individual success so that they can go on and move on in life and be successful humans, and then you bring in new people. So, like I said, he's a fantastic human, and forget just number 13 on the field. It's who he is off the field that I think is probably more impressive.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Okay, thank you.
We'll roll right into it with the Alabama defense. We're joined by coordinator Pete Golding, defensive back Xavier McKinney. Once you guys get settled, Coach, we'll have an opening statement for you, and then we'll open it up for questions.
All right, first off, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. Obviously, we're excited to be in Orlando. The Citrus Bowl and the city of Orlando has obviously done a great job of hosting us. We've had a great week of preparation in Tuscaloosa prior to Christmas, and the kids got 3 days off for Christmas. and they've been working extremely hard since we've been here. So I think it's a great opportunity, especially defensively, to end the year on a right note. Obviously, we've had a lot of young players playing for us that we think have progressed throughout the year. But I think it's very important for us to finish this year on the right note, play extremely hard, and play to the standard of Alabama football.
First question on the right in the center.
Pete, earlier this year, Nick kind of highlighted how difficult your job was this year because of the linebacker situation, having to kind of lead those guys. One, how challenging was that for you? And two, how much did you learn about yourself coaching this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, I mean, you're at Alabama, and so I think you're coaching some of the best players in the country, with some of the best staff in the country, for the best coach in the country. So I think it's not as bad as people think it is. Obviously, those two freshmen that came in are really good players. I think the struggle, obviously, for any young player in any system coming into college football as a freshman is adjusting to the speed of the game. And then I think as many shifts, emotions, and things like that they see when the pitcher changes, those guys being able to having to make a call in a split second, and then all 11 guys are waiting on them to make the call, because they're the signal caller of the defense. I think that was a struggle early for them. But I think both those guys in the middle of our defense love football. They're extremely smart. They prepare the right way, and I think obviously, Xavier could talk about that. But they're in there all the time, and I think they got better throughout the year. They had their growing pains. I had my growing pains. It wasn't always perfect by any means, but it was a situation that we were put in. But I'm extremely proud of how they handled themselves and the preparation they put forward.
Staying on the right, say one row back on the aisle.
For Xavier, we've heard a lot about this team having something to prove and wanting to make a statement. What exactly is the statement that this team wants to make in this game?
Just that we got it. Just that we can still compete. We can still play hard. That we still had the Bama factor, something that we talk about a lot. I know in a lot of the games that we play, we haven't really played our best, but we just want to come out here and show that we still can play and that we still can show that we are Bama and that we can go out and dominate.
Same row on the right.
For Pete, is there something maybe the outsiders, people who aren't in the program who don't understand, what do they not understand about the process of these young guys coming in and learning the defense kind of on the fly like they had to?
I mean, I think obviously a lot of programs play freshmen. I think a lot of it has to do with the position that they're playing and who's around them. I think it was a unique deal this year that you lost two guys at the same position to where you have two 18-year-olds that have never been in the system side by side. And I think a lot of times they're looking for confirmation, and they're looking for confirmation, and the guy beside them that doesn't really know either. And I think that's been the big difference in the past. It's not like freshmen haven't played at the University of Alabama or freshmen don't play at every other school in the country. That happens. It's going to happen. But I think the big difference is that guy having to make the calls, set the front, set the blitzes, and then having validation beside him to where if he's second-guessing himself, no, hey, it's Ringo, Ralph, just to confirm what he was thinking. I think that was probably the difference this year of having two 18-year-old kids side by side in the middle of your defense that are responsible for making the calls. So I think that was the unique part of it to where you can look across the board, people play freshmen. Alabama's going to play freshmen. We're going to have great juniors that go out to the draft. That's going to happen. So you're going to have to replace those guys and develop the bottom of your roster. But it's unique in those guys having to be the signal caller and being side by side. I think that was kind of the difference.
We'll go over on the left, second row on the aisle.
Pete, you mentioned you've had your growing pains this year.
Mm-hmm.
Where have you learned and grown the most as a play caller? And do you have an example of maybe a situation later in the season that you did differently?
Yeah, I think it's always tough as a coach. I think obviously when you prepare and you're seeing what the opponent does and you're trying to take away their bread and butter and obviously give them different looks and all those things to take away, to some of their top plays, I think you got to be careful of asking your guys to do something that they maybe can't do. And I think at times as coaches, we always want the answer and we always want the chalk glass. And schematically on the board, we want to look like we've got the extra guy or we're fitting this the right way. And I think at times we put too much on those guys to where they're thinking instead of reacting. And I think especially for young football players, to be able to get lined up, set the front, keep the coverage obviously the same, and be able to adjust out what you're in helps those guys. And I think sometimes as coaches, We can think too much and think we're too damn smart at times, all right? And then, try to put them in certain situations to where they start changing the picture and we change the coverage because it's what's best to do. However, if you can't execute it, it doesn't matter the call. We got to be able to execute, obviously the call, whatever we call. But I think the big thing is obviously trying to keep it simple, however, be sound and be multiple, because I think obviously we got good offensive coordinators, good quarterbacks. So if they know what you're going to be in, obviously they have a play designed to beat it, So I think obviously for us, from a pitcher standpoint, having the ability to change the pitcher, but keep it simple for our guys where the rules stay consistent and they can play fast. I think obviously that was something throughout the year that we kind of improved on. We still got to get a lot better at.
We're going to stay on the left.
Xavier, I wanted to ask you about it. One of your teammates that you came in to Alabama together with, what's it been like the last 3 years in practice going against Devonta Smith?
Man, it's tough. He's one of those guys that makes you better. First when I came against him, like when we first came in, we didn't really go like against each other that much. But throughout the past 2 years, I've had a chance to go one-on-ones against him when we're doing 2-on-2 drills. And it's tough. It's hard to guard him. He's a guy that can run. He's physical. He don't look, super physical because he's not really a big guy, but he's definitely a guy that's very physical. He's not really afraid of anybody, and he definitely makes sure he competes every time. So he's one of those guys that's, tough to guard either way it goes. So I try to do my best, and I know every time I go against him, I try to give him my best shot because I know he makes me better every time. So it's definitely fun going against him because I know I get to compete against him. I know that he's going to make me better.
Over on the right, third row in the center.
James Ogletree, the Crimson White. Pete, wanted to ask you about two guys who look like they could potentially be in line to play a little bit more in this game than they have. That's Josh Jobe and Chris Allen. With Josh, we know he's a passionate player. How have you kind of taught him to harness that and still play with that passion but be disciplined? And then what kind of growth have you seen out of Chris this year?
Yeah, I think obviously Josh has had a really good week of preparation, both in Tuscaloosa and here. He's an extremely competitive kid. Obviously, he's got the skill set and the length that we want at that position. And I think he's done a great job over the last 2 weeks, and Coach Scott and Coach Saban obviously coaching him, of locking in and focusing on his job. And just controlling what he can control, finishing on the ball in the deep part of the field is something that he's been working on throughout the year that I think he has improved on. But he's been very good at the bottom of the route. He is an emotional kid, but he's learned to control his emotion and not play emotional. And I think that's obviously something the coach talks about a lot. That's kind of showed up early. But he's maturing. Obviously, he understands the role he's in. He's got some great players around him. Xavier does a really good job with him. And, those guys in the back end are very close groups, so they kind of help lead themselves. But I think the last 2 weeks he's really been focusing on his job, obviously controlling what he can control, but playing with emotion but not getting emotional, which Coach talks about all the time. And I think that's something he's starting to do.
We're going to go over on the left in the back.
Joseph Salvador, Florida Citrus Sports. Coach, what are you seeing from Shea Patterson on film? Why has he been so successful his last couple of games, especially the last 3 games?
Yeah, I think obviously offensively what they do, Coach Gaddis and those guys do a really good job. So schematically, they make you count for all 11. They're going to run the quarterback. So obviously your structure on defense, you got to be able to account for the quarterback in the run game. And then I think on third down, he does a really nice job of extending plays. So when things break down in the back end and they got guys covered, he can step up or out, and he does a really nice job based on the coverage, whether he's going to scramble if the back's to you in a two-man principle, or he does a nice job in zone of keeping his eyes downfield. Their receivers do a really good job of breaking off the routes, and a lot of their explosive plays come on third down when the play broke down. It wasn't designed to be that way, but it became an explosive play off the scramble, in a man principle or a zone principle, the scramble rules, and he hits a deep shot. So I think the big thing is accounting for him, obviously in the run game. He's very athletic. They do a lot of unique things to be able to run the quarterback for you to use all 11 guys. And then I think on third down it's going to be pivotal, obviously, to keep him, make him be a pocket passer. All right, and then use our hands. Obviously, I think the flight of the ball, we got to do a good job up front getting our hands up. But we've got to be able to contain him and keep him in the pocket.
We're going to go over on the right.
So we talk a lot about those freshman linebackers, but you guys have had to play some freshmen up front too. How has that added to the challenge this year, and what have you seen from that group?
Yeah, I think obviously, Justin Boydby and Byron Young, we've had several guys up front as true freshmen that play. So they've played extremely hard. They're very coachable. I think obviously you want to be having a racer, so normally if you got a young guy, up front, then you want a veteran guy behind him, to where I'm a second level guy. He makes a mistake, he's in the wrong gap, then we can make it right. I think at times we end up in the same gap a lot. So obviously, that's a challenge, but I think I love just the way they work. They come to practice, they're eager to learn, they play extremely hard. Obviously, we've got to improve on our gap integrity, and striking and coming out of our hips. And then we got to do a better job at the second level of making those guys right. That's the bottom line of playing linebacker, be able to fix things and erase things, and we got to be able to help those guys.
Go back over on the left on the aisle.
Isaiah Hole, Wolverines Wire. Pete, what are the challenges of going up against a guy and Josh Gaddis, a guy that was in your building, and what have you seen out of his offense, whether it be similarities, differences from his time in Tuscaloosa to Ann Arbor?
Yeah, I think obviously the unique thing is anytime you're playing an opponent, whatever you struggled with on tape, you're normally going to see. All right, obviously they go through that, and things that you've struggled with throughout the year normally end up showing back up. I think what's unique about him having been here, regardless of whether it's been on tape or we've been put in that position this year, he knows having been here in practice, things obviously that make us adjust certain ways and certain calls and things like that. So I think obviously, that does give him an advantage. Because we haven't put everything on tape, So most guys that play us, hey, what you struggle with on tape, you're going to repeat and you're going to see again. And obviously he knows our system, and he knows obviously some of the rules of the system. But you got to execute. I think as coaches, you call a play, the players got to execute the play. It ain't always perfect. So I think we got to do a good job of stemming in disguises, some fronts and some coverages. But the bottom line is going to be about our execution and our players playing extremely hard.
Final question across the aisle on the right.
Coach, Chris Allen, how much growth have you seen from him, not only this season playing, but also, just knowledge of the game sitting out last season with injury?
Yeah, I think Coach Sal's done a really good job with him. And then obviously having been in the system a couple years, getting banged up and coming back. He's a smart football player. He understands the system. Obviously he'll have an opportunity in this game to be able to showcase that a little more. But we're extremely excited about his potential. Coach Sal, does a good job with him. I think the kid understands the system, understands what we're asking him to do. So he's developed. He's come a long way. So I think he'll play well.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Appreciate it.